Welcome to the Fundraising Elevator, where we're all headed up. This podcast is a production of Swaim Strategies, a consulting firm dedicated to nonprofit fundraising events. We're coming to you today from the studios of the AV department. Please welcome our hosts, Kristen Steele and Samantha Swaim.
Well, hello and welcome to the Fundraising Elevator, where we are all headed up. We are very excited to talk about creativity today and deviations from our usual conversation. John Lepp is a globally recognized author, speaker, and creative leader known for redefining what modern fundraising can be. For over 25 years, he has combined direct response, strategy, donor psychology, decision science, and bold visual storytelling to help organizations around the world raise more money and build fiercely loyal donor communities. Often called the Ted Lasso of fundraising, which I love, for his disarming warmth and relentlessly optimistic approach, John pushes fundraisers to leave passive communication behind and embrace brave, emotional storytelling rooted in what donors actually care about: meaning, connection, and impact. A renowned international speaker and co-founder of Agents of Good, one of our favorite agencies out there doing direct mail work and legacy giving work, John has trained thousands of fundraisers globally, inspiring them to be more human, more vulnerable, and more creatively courageous in everything they do. John, welcome to the Fundraising Elevator. We're so glad you're here today.
Same. Thank you both for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Well, first, big picture, before we dive into your incredible work, and we want to dive into that in a moment, but what inspired you to do this work? What moved you into the world of fundraising?
Oh, God. I didn't see that question coming. Honestly, it's my colleagues. I know maybe that's a stock answer, but I'm fortunate to do a lot of speaking and virtually and in person. And honestly, to have people come up to me at a conference and say that they'd heard something we talked about a year ago, or they read something that I'd written, and they're like, "Here, I want to show you what I created." And they're saying it with joy and love in their hearts and a beautiful smile on their face. I mean, I'm just buzzed. I just buzz thinking about those experiences that I get. I'm so fortunate that I get that, because a lot of our friends don't get that feedback from our colleagues. So beautiful. It's an amazing thing. That's why I do it.
I love it.
I love that.
I think one of the things we gravitate to the most about you is your deep investment in empathy and your quest to manifest humanity in fundraising. I think it is, whenever I'm hear a conversation with you or I'm in a session that you're leading, I keep coming back to those pieces as sort of reminders that you place out there for folks, and I'm always so grateful for that. Your book, Creative Deviations, is all about how to infuse fundraising, storytelling, direct mail with more creativity. What moved you to write the book?
There was a book that was handed to me early in my career. It was called, it's this book, which I have right here, called Asking Properly by the late, great George Smith. George was a fundraiser in the UK, and it was a book that all of my mentors had read and were inspired by. They were inspired by George and his stories and his creativity, and so it was handed to me in early days, and I paid it some attention, but it wasn't until about 4 years ago I took up to a cottage during the summertime and reread it, and I was like, there's so many echoes of all the things, like fundamentally and foundationally, of who I was as a creative and as a fundraiser. I was like, wow, and there's not been a book like this since this book came out by George. And so a lot of people have never heard of this book, and if you can find it, it's worth like a couple $1,000s on Amazon or something. And I was like, I want to do a modern day version of Asking Properly, because Asking Properly today is about honoring the people we get to have these amazing conversations with. But we can only have these conversations with these people if we're doing our work with some empathy and love and care in our hearts. And so I wanted to sort of bring all that together into a book that hopefully inspired people to go, it's not just an envelope, it's an opportunity for conversation if you allow it to be, and that was where it came from. I was like, okay, I'm doing this.
And then when you see the opportunity, you can't unsee it.
That's true.
Correct. Absolutely.
Well, so our work often crosses paths at the Nonprofit Storytelling Conference. You are very rooted in story. We are very rooted in story. We turn our story into events. You turn your story into legacy giving and into direct mail campaigns. You mentioned the envelope. We're going to talk about the envelope in a minute.
Right.
But we are not major gift fundraisers, meaning like we don't do traditional annual appeals, we don't do direct mail. And yet we partner often with a group called the Cause Catalyst, which is a group of fractional fundraisers. And they introduced us to your book for the first time and said this book unlocked for them the full potential of what they could be doing. And so I wanted to ask you for a little story and ask you about your own personal deviations and what maybe inspired you to give yourself permission to kind of take that first unconventional path and deviate a little bit.
Oh God, another good question. I since being young, I was creative, but I grew up in a world that didn't appreciate it and like it very much. I think my mom was inherently very much a creative, anxious person. And she tried to express it in the ways that she could. She was an amazing storyteller. I think there's like in the back, the last couple of chapters, I talk about some of my lessons through my career, like in terms of running a business, in terms of what sort of creative I wanted to be. These things sort of all went into it. And I had some great cheerleaders around me. I think of someone like Ken Burnett from the UK or Tom Ahern in the US. They were cheering me on to do this because they'd followed my work for a while. So, but writing a book it's not for the faint of heart. Unfortunately, I didn't know getting into it what it was going to be like. And I do remember even like writing the last couple of words and just sobbing, like just writing that last word period and just sitting at my desk sobbing because I think like I couldn't believe that I was capable of this. And the thing is that I try to remind people of this in our work all the time. We are capable of great things. All of us are, and it's creating champions, for having champions around us who support us. It's, creating space for ourselves to fail and try things and not really know how it's going to go. That's what being creative is at. And we're all creative in our day-to-day lives. It's just, if we can bring a little more of that to our work, it shines. It shows through to our donors. They see the effort and the energy and they want to participate, but being robotic in our work isn't cutting it anymore. It never did, but even less so now.
I love that your story of sort of giving yourself permission to take the risk for a creative deviation is the actual book, Creative Deviations. And yeah, I think that what I find in here for a fundraiser are tools, exercises, resources for inspiring that work that often feels like it is so high stakes. Right? Just like writing a book is so high stakes, but writing that appeal that raises the goal, that meets the need, that inspires the gift, it feels so high stakes. And I feel like you've done a really beautiful job of making it feel tangible, practical, allow for humanity in it, empathetic, like you lead with empathy and understand sort of the plight of the fundraiser. So thank you for taking that risk and doing the work.
My pleasure. Thank
John,
you.
John, you often talk about how empathy should be the baseline. And then when that becomes the true superpower. Can you talk a little bit about that? I think empathy is one of those things that gets put on people, as a should. But kind of when we reverse engineer that and are in that space, what's possible? What can that look like for folks?
It's like authenticity kind of also is kind of thrown around in the same kind of way. I mean, like I say, if you're empathetic, basically, to me, what that means is that I put myself in the shoes of someone else for a moment to consider their point of view, like what's going on in their world, what's happening that may lead them to the decision that they're making or the way they're reacting towards something I said. Like I have to take this emotional intelligence, I have to put into play a little bit in my day-to-day relationships with my partner, with my business partner, with my kids, and I think a lot of us, most normal people, have this. We have emotional intelligence, we have empathy, we do think about others around us and how our actions impact others. Well, in our work, we have to do the same thing. There are so many people who show up in their work that I see, and they're checking their box. They're like, right, my job is X, Y, and Z, and that's what I'm going to do today. And it's not necessarily their fault. I think we've become products of our own society and the constraints that are put upon us. But I'm asking people, before you do that next e-blast to your list, just take a moment and think about, what is it that I want someone to think? What do I want someone to feel? What do I want someone to do? Why should they care? Why should they care right now? And if you're thinking about some of these things, my job or your job as a fundraiser is to have answers to those questions. Because you're taking time from someone's busy life and day with grandchildren, their cup of tea, a vacation, life in general. So if they're going to give you some time and attention, make sure you're honoring their time and attention and their energy. Just again, if we're going to take a friend out for lunch, let's honor our friends' time and attention for spending time with us. I think we all do that naturally, but we need to do it more in our work. We're not e-blasting people. It's an opportunity for conversation, but the empathy has to start, like I say, here first. If we don't empathize with ourselves and where we're at, how we're feeling, what's going on in our lives, what am I going to try to accomplish today? If I don't love myself first and foremost, how can I extend that to anybody else? And so there's also, in our sector, as we know, there's a lot of people who are burnt out, run down, in shitty jobs with people who don't give a crap about what they're doing. We see this day in, day out. How are they supposed to stay connected to themselves and still show up and try to do their best? And that is a tall order. That's where my empathy kicks in for our friends and colleagues, because good Lord, like this, the stuff they're up against every single day, and yet they still show up, they still try to shine, they still try to connect with donors, they still try to tell great stories despite all of the things happening around us. And our donors do the same thing. Our donors still show up, they still give, they still try to shine in their giving, they still try to change the world by a $25 gift. We have to honor all these things a lot more. It's not just about the donor giving $1 million. It's all of us. We're all deserving of that.
Yeah. And it makes me think too, I think often going back to this notion of an e-blast, and I'm going to just go e-blast everyone, when we talk about what's your audience, and often we're met with, well, I'm going to email today these folks in this category that meet these things who have lapsed this and blah, 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 blah. It's like, whoa. Where is your audience? What's going on for them? And having like that is an invite into stepping into their shoes for a minute when we're thinking about audience. It's not just literally the flat numbers on a page. It is the experience of them and where they are and what that is and how that can, I often say that content dictates form. And this idea of, shoehorning one into the others, where that incongruency and that flatness and that like, why are they hammering on me sort of thing when they haven't actually considered me? And I think you have to consider yourself in that too.
Yeah.
And I love your consideration of both the fundraiser and the donor, because that implies we're in relationship and that there's an ongoing conversation that we're offering information to each other in, and that can shape the form we're in together and what that looks like.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well stated.
I want to know a little bit about the kind of the in between. So my experience is that oftentimes the pursuit for perfection is like a roadblock, right? Like we want to make sure it's been edited by 50 people. It still can go out with an error in it. And then we feel like we're, to blame. And Yeah, also this idea of, practicing radical empathy for ourselves and for our donors is more like connective soft tissue in there. There's a little bit more risk. There's a little bit more vulnerability. So how do you, you consult with organizations all around the globe all the time. How do you move people to know like where the dial is right? Like how much do you double check, triple check, and then like put barriers up in front of yourselves versus how much do you turn that dial toward this is what's real right now in the moment, and find that like perfect balance?
Well, I mean, isn't the human experience really messy? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
Hey, cheers. Yes.
I think that to be truly human, you have highs and you have lows, and you have things that are great and you have things that are not so great. And we've created a sector that leans so heavily into being perfect and professional all the time. It's actually created a basic barrier
Yeah.
to connecting with other humans, because me connecting with either one of you over a glass of rosé somewhere, we're going to lay it out, right? We're going to get on the table, we're going to tell stories, we're going to be angry, it's just horrific, sad, happy, amazing. Like, it's all of these things. That's how we're connecting. We share our values, we're sharing stories, we're connecting as humans. Our donors are no different. They're starved of human connection like all of us,
Yeah.
even more, every single day. And so I choose to show up messy on purpose. And it's not for everybody. Trust me. Through my life and career in this work, I've been pushed aside by many because they're not interested in it. They're not interested in having that kind of relationship. And I swear sometimes I get in trouble for it, but I'm a messy human and I show up messy because that's what the human condition is. It's all the things. So I think I can't teach someone to be human, as weird as that sounds. You have to believe, and I say to people, like, if you believe that you need to be in a square, everything has to be perfectly lined up, everything has to look amazing all the time, you have to sound overly professional, right, at a certain way all the time. If that's what you believe, then that's what you believe. But I'm telling you, I have almost 30 years now of experience of showing that the more messy I can create the experience. Again, as someone who obsesses around envelopes, I know the messier it is, the more money I'm going to raise for your cause. And I tell charities that, and they're still like, okay, but. Okay. Well, here's why we can't do that. Here's why that's not going to go. That's why my boss isn't going to let me do that. That's why marketing comms gets. I get, okay. I'm just telling you, I've got 25 years, 30 years of proof showing you the more human you can come across in your e-blasts, if you will, or whatever it is, the more money you're going to raise for your mission, which should be the goal. It should be about, not at all costs, but our goal is to help our missions thrive and survive and grow and provide for whoever we're trying to fix, right? And that should be our goal, not being the most professional entity out there that exists. I didn't think that's the goal, right?
I'm sure you know Steven Screen's work from Better Fundraising Company.
Very much.
He spoke at Elevate this year, which is our annual conference about fundraising events. And he told the story of after an event, how the direct mail piece can be a continuation of your event. And that he had done work with an organization that was a food bank, and they were asking folks to fill the pantry, and sent the direct mail campaign out, and it had a typo in it, and it said filled the panty. And they then sent a apology message, and it raised more money than they had ever raised from any direct mail piece, because it had like a real funny, laugh, catchy, but also like embarrassing moment.
It was so important
but it was
for us
human.
to get this to you that
Right. Fill the panty.
Yeah.
Well, and I think too, when I'm thinking about in the realm of creativity, we all root for the messy. The character that is the most rooted for has messy.
Right.
The straight-laced perfectionist is often the asshole that is working in opposition to that. And so I just think of our own natural inclination as humans consuming stories and where we lean into characters and what that looks like. I also am thinking of when we keep dropping the word creative, that becomes a self-imposed block for folks. Folks are like, I'm not creative.
Right.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
not, I'm a fundraiser. I'm not creative. I'm not going to be creative. How do you convince somebody that creativity is a muscle they can build, not a gift they either have or they don't?
Yes, certainly in my work again, people are like, "Yeah, this is easy, John. I mean, you're creative, and I thought you could never do this." And that isn't true, right? I mean, like I said, we're all born creative. We're all born destroying things, people making it something bigger, coloring, whatever it is that we're doing. But what happens is it gets a little knocked out of us. Once you start to get into the school system, that's why there's some people who don't believe in the school system and maybe do homeschooling or wherever it is, or again, a whole other topic. Because we get into these systems around us in the world where doing that, when we're scribbling or breaking something down or trying something that could burst into flames, we tend to get in trouble from the big adults who don't like it. It's inconvenient for them, and they tell us stop messing about, or we're going to get an F. So don't do that, right? Follow the rules. As my ex-partner used to tell me, that not everyone can be like me. Not everyone can be the unicorn in the balloon factory, because it would be absolute chaos in the world. And she was correct. It's true, but you can be. The person listening to this, they can be, because we need at least one more, probably two more, just to take a step aside, just to try something a little bit different. That's what being creative is. Cooking a dish tonight at dinner time, that's being creative. Going out to your garden and trying to grow a tomato is being creative. Anytime that you're thinking about a problem and the way you can maybe solve it, that's being creative. So we're all born creative. It is still in there. You have to give yourself some permission to try something that feels uncomfortable, not knowing how it's going to work out.
I
Like I
love
say, people, there are no definitives in this work, in our craft.
Yeah.
People are looking for oh, if I do X, Y, and Z, here's the outcome. That's not how the world works, and that's not what being creative is about. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, I interrupted you. I love your broadening the ideas of what creativity can look like for folks, because I do think we get into this box of, is this creative? Oh my God, am I doing creativity right? Is this actually a creative thing? Or is this
Right.
just me doing my job? So I think broadening that and loosening the reins on that for people is also helpful, because I do think in this world where we're either doing things right or we're doing them wrong, there becomes this sort of self-imposed feedback loop around that of that's not creative enough, so I might as well not even try it.
Right.
But that it is a muscle that you can just keep working and do it in all different ways and see how that impacts other pieces.
I think almost doing anything where the outcome is uncertain is an element of creativity.
Yes, that's right.
And I do think if you're doing anything in life where you're not sure how it's going to go, you're being creative, because you don't know.
So I want to talk about that. Like, when you are doing the thing that's unknown, we have social conditioning that says, do it this way. Here's the checkbox. Here's the tools. Here's the rules that we follow.
Yeah.
But I think that the barrier of perfectionism and the risk, right? Like, if I do this wrong, this might happen. I have a question about, what is the risk really? Okay, so I'm writing a fundraising letter. I send it. It has an incorrect spelling, or it has a panty instead of a pantry.
Yeah.
What have you found for those who are afraid to take an approach that's more creative and out of the box, to really truly be the risk versus the reward? Where's the reward in it?
At least give yourself the understanding that when we emerged from the caves 200,000 years ago, we emerged afraid. Mm-hmm. Is that a stick or a snake? Right? Is that going to eat me, or can I mate with it? Some of these basic things are still in us. We have an inherent fear of failure. Right? We start from a place of fearfulness. That's why anxiety is so prevalent around our society, because it's just in us. You can't change who we are. So at least accept that's part of who you are. It's acknowledge, this is why I feel a little afraid to try something a bit different, because something might eat me for doing it wrong if I mess it up. and that'll be the end of my DNA lineage, right? So like it's there. You can't escape it, but at least acknowledge it. You have it. But I'm just saying that if to find some space where you can try something different, knowing you're probably not going to break anything. So like status quo is everywhere, and it's just become so boring. And I think that you have an opportunity, if you do something, that's the idea of the deviation, even a minor step off the main trail that everyone else is on all the time, will lead to some amazing discoveries. But I'm talking like minor. I'm not asking people to turn the place upside down and revolutionize fundraising. I'm trying them to come at their work from a place, again, from empathy and vulnerability, from a space of like feelings and emotions, and sharing the things that they feel about their organization and their missions and themselves in their work. And again, I'm sad that that's scary for people, but we all know a lot of people who do operate even in their own lives from that place where they don't know how to be themselves. And I feel as creative, I've struggled through the years, but I've learned to accept who I am for all my goodness and badness. And it was tough. It was tough. I mean, again, there's a reason why mental health is high up there for a lot of people, because people who do really question who am I and am I truly happy to be who I actually am comes at a cost. I acknowledge that. But that's the decision I've made, is that it's worth it.
To be
It's worth it to me to live this way and to be this way and to help others try to be this way.
be the unicorn in the balloon factory.
Seth Godin, that's not me. That's Seth Godin idea.
Well, I have found in our work that oftentimes there's group consensus happening that is often the barrier for folks to be able to take that creative risk. Someone might have a really good idea, but they can't get everyone on the same page. And I know you work with so many organizations where you are in the organization consulting with teams, talking about how to move forward. So we're going to take a short break, but when we come back, I want to dive even further into kind of your collaborative work and how you inspire folks to take that risk. We'll be right back.
Ready to take your fundraising to the next level? Need to get unstuck in your event planning? Now's your chance to connect directly with the experts behind the Fundraising Elevator. Book a one-on-one consulting session with Sam for strategic planning and fundraising strategy, with Kristen for your programming and storytelling, or Mary for your registration and data tools. They're here to provide you personalized answers to all your event questions. Don't wait. Raise more at your next fundraising event. Book your session today at swaimstrategies.com. You can also find the link in our show notes.
Welcome back. We are here talking with the John Lepp about creative deviations and how to be human. All of the things in one small podcast. I love it. John, you write that successful fundraising is like life. It's about 1,000 small and sometimes annoying things you need to think about and make decisions about that will create unique experiences. Of those 1,000 things, which are the ones that most people overlook, but that move the needle?
Yeah, the 1,000 things is like one of the most annoying kind of principles of life, isn't it? That we're always like going, well, if I change this, then everything is going to be different. I do think in a long time ago, that was true, that there was only maybe 50 things that would change an outcome. Now there's 1,000 things. I jokingly have talked about, again, I don't mean to keep going on about envelopes, but it's for someone who does specialize in direct mail. That is a thing that I do obsess over. To me, a small thing like a stamp on an angle, which I've been talking about for years and years, in the context of donor communications and relationships, is revolutionary. It's like the smallest thing that you go, what the how is that going to make a difference? Like, because it sends a small signal to your donor that a computer didn't put it there. Which means there was a human involved, which means someone took the time to make this for me, which means that someone actually cares I exist, which means that I'm going to pay a little more attention. So it has amplification, this small little thing. And so our work, is filled of these small little thousand small little things. I'm left-handed. So whenever I write anything, I smear my ink all over the place because it gets all over my hand. So smeared ink sends another signal again that there wasn't a computer involved. And in my work, I as a designer, a graphic designer, I don't want to look like I was even there. Again, the more human I can make it look and ugly, for lack of a better word, the more money I'm going to raise. So as a designer, I don't want to leave any imprints behind unless it's smeared ink, because again, that's a small little thing. So I think there's these little like paper clips or another thing because humans are involved with it. But it's also, I think, the little things like Lisa Sargent, who we all know, wrote a great book called Thankology, and she talks about all the moments of gratitude you can build into an appeal. Like little things. One of my favorite things is she tested this, and like on a letter, you gets to the bottom, says, "Please turn over." Well, I know in my world that if I break that last paragraph in half, that's a little thing that can make a big difference to someone reading on or not. So she's also discovered that if she wrote "Please turn over" with a little smiley face or some sort of little drawn icon, it actually will help the overall appeal. These are both human touches they think we're talking about. So the thousand things really is about human imperfections, unacknowledged imperfections that we have and that we do being human, but send a lot of signals to our donors that there are humans or a human behind these things. So that's most of the thousand things are human led. They're human connected. They're not overly technical or tactical, but by themselves they're dismissed. How can a little icon of a smiley face make any difference? Well, by itself it probably doesn't. But when you do, Stephen Stream calls it tactic stacking. When I stack as many of these little tactics and techniques and thousand things as I can as possible in an appeal, well, now you're talking about something quite different than what your donor gets day to day in her mailbox or inbox. So you see what I'm saying? Like they can be dismissed by themselves, but when they're all put together, they actually create something quite amazing.
I'm curious about the brain sort of neuroscience of that, like the chemistry of what's happening with each of those, like everything that's a unique experience. How does that impact the intended donor?
So let me give you an example. So like, again, as someone who does a lot of direct mail, I do a lot more than direct mail, but I specialize in direct mail. When things are tight, when things aren't going very well, what's the first thing we cut back on? Basically, the first thing we cut back on usually is like production costs.
Right.
Let's cut that postage is too much. We can't use that paper. It costs too much money. And so this is called cost of signaling. We start to send signals to our donors by these little cutbacks, right? If you walk into a restaurant and the tables are have a single page with 6 items on them, menu with a gold fork, a gold knife, and a gold spoon, what sort of dining experience do you think you're walking into in that situation?
Right.
Versus you walk into a restaurant full of plastic forks and there's plastic all over the tables, the menu that's this thick, again, all plastic covered. What's your expectation of that dining experience? So they're sending signals to you about that dining experience. What kind of dining experience? We send plastic forks to our donors all the time, expecting them to want to have an amazing dining experience. No, they're expecting a $3 hot dog and hopefully a small soft drink to go along because it's added as part of the deal.
And $1.50 gift.
And a $1.50 gift. That's what they do. That's how they show up. So I think that's a small thing. These decision science things, we have an opportunity to let our donors to make quick decisions in positive ways, but we also do a lot of things that don't allow them to make decisions or quick decisions in any way, and they don't do anything, or they do less than we would want them to do, and we don't even realize we're doing it.
Yeah.
All the time. And so just having a basic understanding of like how humans, all of us, make decisions based on the cave people we were 200,000 years ago. Again, you can utilize this as part of your skill set to do better fundraising that helps your donor quickly make the decision they want to do, which is, do I want to give to this or not? And again, we do a lot of things to get in the way of that. And somehow some still eke through and give us something. So again, I've spent some time, and I'm just a student. I love learning about this stuff. It's super nerdy, but understanding how we as humans move through our day, the shortcuts we're looking to, again, why go around the corner when you can cut across the corner? Our brains want to cut across the corner all the time. So how can we let our donors cut across the corner to give?
Yeah.
They have to consider this. You have to think about this.
In Shireen Koshi's neuro giving, excuse me, he talks a lot about like our brains are actually very lazy and that they're always looking for that shortcut. You just mentioned cutting the cost of production, and it ties me back to a survey that was done, a marketing survey that was done about the event invitation. We have that question all the time. Like, do we really need to send an event invitation? Why don't we just email blast or pay for social media marketing? And for us, the invite is often the thing that is the game changer, right? Like it's the I'm coming. And then they get that thing in the mail, the printed element that makes it formal. And then they RSVP. And we knew this intuitively. We had this gut feeling that understanding that formality was needed because it was actually getting yeses. But in that sort of pushback that we were getting from production costs getting cut from some of our clients, we were asked to go find some data. And we found an article that was a marketing survey done in 2018 for a nonprofit organization that they sent 3 invitations for their event. The first invitation was super high-end die-cut, glitter fell out of the envelope. The second invitation was professionally done, mission-aligned, nice, beautiful invite. The third invitation was printed in-house, folded by humans. The third invitation, the like in-house low budget, got phone calls signaling, right, are you okay? Is your organization okay? Is there a financial hit happening? The second invite that was professionally done, mission aligned, got RSVPs. And the third invite that was like super high end, gold experience, die cut, got calls saying, why are you spending my money this way? And got complaints. And so it's an interesting aha for us about how we signal to our donors and help the lazy brain make that quick connection to the thing we ultimately want them to do.
Mm-hmm.
John, I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit more as a designer and a fundraiser, how design plays into fundraising. When we're thinking sort of contextually about the book and Creative Deviations, people who are like, I'm not creative. But this idea of creating an experience and designing an experience for your donor does play into their lean into generosity, so to speak. Can you talk about ways that you think that shows up in a really fundamental level for folks that maybe they're not thinking about?
Yeah, I think that as a design, when I talk about design, I can talk about graphic design, but as a designer, I'm thinking about how everything works together.
Yeah.
All the time. And it's not just about making pretty pictures with shapes. So like I try to teach a lot of designers that I work with and trained through the years to stop designing like that. Like why is that box there? Like, or if you used a starburst, what is it you're trying to accomplish? What is it trying to accomplish for you that you think you need to put it in there? Like just take a second to think about that. I think I want people to sort of take a step back. It's not just about making pretty pictures, it's about trying to communicate something. Yeah. And I know that less, as a graphic designer, the less elements I have on a page may seem on one level more boring design, but I know will communicate better because there's less stimulus for the donor to get lost in boxes and colors and photos and things, right? So like I'm trying to always think of the whole experience. I think the other thing I try to push people, especially in marketing comms, to think about as organizations, we all talk about the importance, of equality and, of accessibility. And yet we do a lot of things in design that are counter to that. And I don't even think that charities realizing how inaccessible they're making their work. Or from an equality lens, how much they're breaking that by doing like reverse type, for example. Everyone over the age of 45 has some level of visual impairment of some type. it's irresponsible to run your copy in white text on a like a full color box because so many people can't actually see it. Or charities who write letters that are like a grade 13 written at like you're in grade 13. There's a lot of people, especially in the US, who don't even have a high school diploma. They don't understand what you're saying. So how is that we're being equal or thinking about people who have some sort of learning impairment or visual impairment? We're getting, again, that's what I'm talking about. We're getting in the way of people helping us all the time by doing these things. So it's not so that's a graphical lens on how do we get in the way of, or too many boxes. Again, that's analysis paralysis. That's decision science. Every other box I put on my online form or my mail form only decreases the likelihood of someone doing the thing I want to. Because again, do I want to check this? What do I think about this? Do I want to sign up for volunteering? Do I want their It's just more decisions that I don't want to make. So again, it gets in the way. But I have to understand as a designer, or when I leave like this much space between the credit card lines, for like, again, a lot of Americans, a lot of people have the types of arthritis in their hands. You're literally hurting her by trying to get her to fill out these reply forms. So she doesn't. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure that we don't, like, we're not in the business of like, I actually looked at a reply form for the Arthritis Society one time that my mother-in-law got, and I swear to God, the space between the lines that she was supposed to fill out was less than a third of an eighth of an inch. And I was like, you've got to be freaking kidding me right now. Like the charity, like it's bonkers. Sometimes I look at this
Yeah.
and I go, who's paying attention here? Is anybody? Is anyone paying any attention at all?
Yeah.
Anyways, this is a sore subject for me. From a place of empathy for donors, because it just I don't know who's thinking about these things sometimes, and it looks like no one is.
Well, the design element and the envelope is something you talk a lot about. So I really want to actually have you do your like TED talk real quick.
No, you don't.
Oh no, I really do, because I am that donor you talk about. I receive the direct mail piece and it goes in the trash before it's even opened. But I can tell you why. It's in a little clear window envelope. Oftentimes my name is spelled wrong. And it is digitally printed with the like bulk mail indicia and like a code, like a barcode across the bottom. And I immediately go, I don't know what it is, but I'm not interested. And I rip it up and throw it in the trash. You tend to send direct mail pieces that I actually open. And you have a lot of really nerdy fundraising logic that goes into the design choices. So I want to hear your TED Talk about the tactic stacking that you apply to the envelope.
I joked that I could do an 8-hour presentation on envelopes, and I really, I'm growing a list of people who want this to happen. So,
Yes.
the nutshell is you have 3 seconds when your donor's standing over her blue bin, maybe a cup of tea nearby. Maybe the grandkids are coming for a quick visit, and she's doing this quickly. Bill, do I need to look at this? No. Don't try. So she's doing that really quickly. You have 3 seconds to get her attention. So how can you make sure that she stops at yours? This is an opportunity again, to get her to stop and look at yours. What can you do to make sure she at least considers you for more than 3 seconds? Well, I can tell you that in the US, where your donor's getting between 30 and 40 pieces of mail from charities like yours every single day, and most of them are sending white number 10 envelopes with a window on it, the way you described it, good luck. You're not that, and you're only doing it once a year at the holidays. No
Right.
chance.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like no shot. So how can you? I always think about how can I dominate the mailbox of the donor when it gets to her mailbox? What do I need to do? Well, usually, honestly, postage is the first thing. So again, not for all donors, but the best donors, I'm going to make sure I'm using first class postage. And everything else from there, I want to feel like a human being was involved in creating it. So I want to do something a bit bigger. I want to have handwriting on it if possible. I want to not tell the donor too much of the story, actually, probably none of the story necessarily. I want her just to go, huh, what is this? Huh. I know this is from the Arthritis Society. I wouldn't have expected this from them. If I can get her asking some of those questions and thinking about it, that she's already been on for 6 or 7 seconds now, and I'm on my way. Do you know what I mean? So that's I'm trying to find some stopping power. And again, I have this like envelope here that I like to show people. You described again that white number 10 envelope with a window on it. You know, it's got a logo, the coding on it. Well, if you pull that out of your mailbox and then you pull this out of your mailbox,
Yeah.
you know, which one? And I say to people in conferences, which one would you open first? And like, oh, well, this one, of course. I'm like, well, then why do you always send her that one?
Right.
If you know this works for you and probably her, why would you send her the other one? Well, I don't know, because that's what everyone else does is usually the answer. Well, that's not the best answer sometimes. So yeah, I'm always like, how can I make sure that when the donor pulls the mail in the mailbox that day, what can I do to nudge her to open mine or look at mine first, or at least consider it longer than 3 seconds? Because if I have Tom Ahern or Jen Love or someone write the best fundraising letter of humankind, and I mess that up, I failed everybody, the mission, the donor, the writer, everybody. And I don't. It does keep me awake at night. Literally, there's a reason why I have no hair. It's because I just obsess over this stuff too much.
Well, I want to know, the number 10 envelope is become like a standard, I think, because of ease. Like it's the easy solution because I can send it to a mail house, right?
Yeah.
There are lots of other easy buttons that are happening now, especially with
Yep.
AI, like
Yeah.
AI auto-generated handwriting. What do you think of some of those tools? Do you think that they're like creating more standardized looks that feel robotic that people are throwing away? Or do you think that they're actually like creating effective ease for the nonprofit
I
and
guess
getting opened?
my concern is that everyone's trying to find ways to automate things because, like in business and like production and everything, because it's faster, which basically means it's more profitable. Do you know what I mean? Like we're always being moved to like, how can I save as much money as possible? Like I think in the U.S. they've discovered that if they send a donor an envelope with maybe just a reply envelope in it, they'll get money back. Someone's discovered that they can still make money by doing this,
Wow.
right?
Yeah.
And
Interesting.
our consulting friends know this. And so like, well, that's all you need to do. Because more often than not, that you'll still get money back. Or what we did an acquisition appeal with 1 million people and it bombed, but we still have 356 more million people we can do one for. I can't do that here in Canada, by the way. They don't have the same numbers, stuff like that. The problem with like some of these tools is they are indeed tools, but pans are tools too. I keep telling like cooking. Pans are a tool as well. But if you don't know how to make an omelet, it's not going to matter what kind of pan you use.
Right.
It's still going to be a piece of crap omelet. And that's the thing is that people are like, oh, great, have a new tool called AI or an all clad pan. But if you still don't know how to make the omelet, it's still not going to change what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so people are like, oh, I have to think less. I can think less about this now. But I've talked to people who are like, tell me about your stewardship program. Tell me what happens when I make a gift to your charity. What do I get? Oh, well, we don't really do we send them a receipt or we don't
Right.
do anything. I'm like, well, if you're not saying thank you to humans, what are you doing? Like,
Right.
what is it? What is you're so busy doing that you don't have the time? And I remember talking to a fundraiser at Storytelling. This was years ago, and she said the one part of her job that no one has to have a say in, that no one gets in her ear about at all, was stewardship. And she did a beautiful gratitude letters and cards to her donors all the time. So beautiful, you know. And she's like, our program is very successful. But the thing is, her bosses sitting around going like this: we're amazing. Donors love us. And they weren't giving her the credit because it was her work that was making that program successful. So we've just become a community in pursuit of like automation. Like, let's just make this faster. And so I have to think less about it because I don't really like to. And people less and less like things like direct mail, especially to donors who give you $50 in cash once a year. When was the last time you guys went to a session that anyone spent an hour talking about donors who give you $50 in cash through a direct mail piece, aside from
Right.
Steven's screen. And you guys storytelling, so it's barely not true. But if you go, I was in a conference last year in Holland and stuff. There were 10 sessions on AI and not one on annual giving.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
And I was like, again, novelty biased. Novelty suggests that AI is really freaking cool, and let's talk about the shiny object. And I know direct mail and annual giving is not very sexy, especially when you talk about donors who give you $50. But this is why we're a sector in free fall.
I actually also think that right now we're going through this connection recession where we just don't have that same like relationship to our nonprofits that we used to. And I think that what you're talking about is an opportunity to invite people in, meaning not just in your donor stewardship, but in like a volunteer work party. You know, I'm an old enough fundraiser that I was raising money before we had these automation tools and mail houses. And we used to have work parties with volunteers. And yeah, we sent letters that had a pizza smear on them or a chocolate smear because they had grabbed a cookie. And those, while I think it always felt kind of like a labor lift, it also was an opportunity for laughing together. And we would come across a name on the mailing list and be like, oh my gosh, that's my next door neighbor, and write them a personal note. But that only happened when we had that like work party session where other people were in the room working on it together. Not one person, not just the development professional.
Well, and I think the recentering is humans to humans, right? And if we extend that in that all humans are innately creative. John, what is one of the creative deviations you'd like folks to focus on first? If they're like, okay, here's all the noise. I've got AI. I'm doing 3 roles instead of 1. I'm now fundraising and marketing and comms, and I clean the toilet, whatever all that is. So I'm looking for ways to do my job and do it quicker. And there's all this noise and all of these things. But if at the heart of that is really the impact when we're human and we invite each other into space to solve problems together, what is a creative deviation or a creative practice that can center that for folks?
I'm never going to dismiss the opportunity for just what we were just talking about, human connection. So I've had even a colleague who worked at UNICEF in Italy. He tested all kinds of things in the context of gratitude and stewardship. And he found they actually only had to do 2 things. One is he would make sure that he sent a handwritten thank you card within 48 hours of getting a gift from a donor, any donor, not just the friggin' rich ones. And he would call them at least once a year on an anniversary, like a birthday, or on an anniversary giving. Those 2 things, a handwritten thank you card and a telephone call, significantly increase the retention of those donors and their lifetime value. 2 of the most human, simple things. And so I do like to challenge people I talk to who in this room is incapable of picking up a telephone. I'm not sorry, introverts, that's part of your job, is to talk to other humans, or send a thank you card for every donor. If there's too many thank you cards to send out, that's a great problem to have. Who can't do these 2 most simple things? Forget about technology, forget about everything else. And of course, no one ever raises their hand. No one's ever like, oh, I can't do that, or I'm incapable of doing that. We're all capable. And I think I keep coming back to time again, that the more human ways I can create opportunity for human connection, for me to say to a donor, I see you and thank you so much for being here and for caring about our mission. And I'd love to hear your story. Why us? Why this mission? The more you can do that in every way, shape, or form, the world would be completely different than the shit show we're in right now.
Yeah, it is true. Just the simple ask of being willing to listen. And if you're going to use automation to remind you of those opportunities, right? Like schedule the call time, schedule the thank you note time, use automation to remind you of who is next on the list that gave in the past 48 hours.
Yeah,
let it be the
tool.
Yeah, let it be the tool, not you.
Yes.
Agreed. Yes. Perfect.
Well, we're going to take one more short break, and when we come back, we're going to step in the fundraising elevator. We'll be right back with John Lepp.
change. It doesn't happen on its own. It happens on purpose, thanks to nonprofits that believe a brighter future is not just possible, but needed and deserved, and that connect people to causes and turn moments of generosity into movements. That's why Bloomerang is built for purpose, to raise the bar on what's possible and help every act of giving lead to more. Because when the bottom line is a better world, no goal is too lofty. Bloomerang, built for purpose.
Welcome back. We are talking to John Lepp about creative deviations and how to center humanity in fundraising and maybe just in life. And maybe the fundraising will follow, but we'll all be better for it. John, we ask all our guests to step into the fundraising elevator and offer our fundraising superheroes out there sort of their parting words of wisdom about how they can also continue heading up. What would that be for you?
Okay. I'm going to give this my best shot. One of the most powerful words I think we have that we can utilize in our work and our lives every day is why. I think most creatives, people who are creative, and again, I do believe we are all creative, we are naturally curious. Why did that work? Why did that bomb? I think it's such a powerful opportunity for conversation with the people we work with, for our donors. And I would say, show up to your work, at least try to insert a couple more whys into your day. Why is this checkbox here? Why do we have to send this out right now? Why have we always sent this? Why are we always doing like this? And ask questions. And if you're not satisfied with the answer, ask why again. When it gets to the point where anyone, including hopefully the 6-year-old you've dragged along with you for the day, understands the answer, then you're getting somewhere. And I've watched someone put this into practice in a boardroom, and a lot of uncomfortable shifting in seats and readjusting of ties, and people trying to, because they don't actually know sometimes, or they don't know how to simplify the answer to satisfaction. Well, it leaves opportunity for change. And I think if you believe that you are creative, then you have to accept that you have to be naturally curious. And being naturally curious means we question things and we ask, why does that work? Why doesn't that work? Why is that there? It's such a powerful opportunity for conversation. So there's a word, try to insert a couple times more into your day every day. Why? Why are you doing with that?
I love that. We have found that the why often gets us to like the heart of the fundraising event. When we're designing an event, oftentimes we hear, well, we need to raise 250,000 or we need 200 people in the room. But why? And if we keep asking that,
It must be a casino night.
right, but why? If we keep asking that, we often just get to that like gold nugget in there. But sometimes it's like peeling that onion back a little. Well, so John, we haven't talked at all about Jen, but I do want to just bring Jen into the conversation because Jen was on our podcast previously talking about legacy giving. Jen Love, one of the co-founders of Agents of Good with you. If folks are interested in learning more about Agents of Good and working with you all, how do they find you? Where can they best connect to you?
Well, our website, agentsofgood.org, would be the natural place, of which we're actually just redoing because it needs some updating. I'm very active on LinkedIn as well. Jen is not as much, but Agents of Good probably is the best place to find and connect with us and our team of other people constantly asking why and how can we do this better and how can we take care of each other better in our very difficult emotional work that we do every day with joy and love, but also comes with a lot. So yeah, that's probably the best place to connect with us. And we have some freebies there too, under resources. There'll still be there a couple cheat sheets for your work, and people seem to like them. So something to get while you're there.
I love it.
And if people are interested in creative deviations and romping around with a unicorn busting down the walls a little bit and helping them to think creatively out of the box, how can they find creative deviations?
It is available. I would love to give a shout out to my Canadian publisher, realizing that if you're in Australia, that's going to be difficult to get. But every Amazon around the world has it for you, that it's on print on demand. I hate saying that and giving more money to someone like Bezos, but there you go. But you can get it there. So
Well, we will make sure to provide a link to your website and to Creative Deviations. And we just appreciate the work you're doing in the sector, the impact you're having in nonprofits, and the inspiration to think more deeply about our envelope. So thank you for your TED Talk on the envelope. I look forward to the 8-hour webinar.
And beyond the envelope, Jen, I would just like to say thank you for all that you do.
Yeah.
I am deeply appreciative of the brilliant humans in our sector who continue to remind people to human. So thank you for all you do in that as well.
Thank you both. Thank you, everybody.
The Fundraising Elevator is produced by Swaim Strategies at the studios of the AV department. The program is produced and directed by Steve Osborne, with audio engineering and original music by Dwayne Anderson and Heidi Christensen. Video production by John Collier. Graphic design by Pendulum Creative Group. And voiceover by Josh Boykin.
Friends, before we leave you, we want to ask for your help to make the podcast grow. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please follow, subscribe to the Fundraising Elevator. And if you're getting a lot out of the show, please share it with a friend and leave a review. These things help make sure that the podcast continues heading up. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Are you ready to engage supporters and grow your base with your own podcast? Then let us introduce you to our partners at the AV department in Portland, Oregon. In addition to delivering exceptional live event audiovisual production and videography, they also have a top-tier production studio and an expert team ready to take your content ideas to the next level. Contact the AV department to schedule a consultation and start bringing your podcast vision to life.